What's up guys, Sparky Izzy here, and today I'm going to show you how to install a receptacle underneath the Soffit for permanent outdoor lighting. Stay tuned. You're probably watching this video because you recently installed some Govee permanent outdoor lights or something similar, and you're trying to figure out the best way to keep them plugged in without the cords hanging on the floor. There's a lot of different options that you can do, but I would suggest putting a receptacle underneath the Soffit. Now I am a master electrician, so I'm licensed to do this, so this video is going to be for educational purposes only. But I was recently working on a project where I needed to add a receptacle, so I wanted to walk you through how I did it. If you have any questions throughout the video, feel free to comment down below. And if you're in need of an electrician in the San Antonio, Texas area, I'll leave my information in the description. So for this project, I decided to put the receptacle on this side of the house because I was going to have two separate zones and they were both going to be plugged into this receptacle. As you just saw in the previous clip, I used some magnets to see if there was any joists in the way. And once I didn't feel for anything, I decided to trace out the box and cut it out using a multi-tool. I will have a link down in the description of all the tools I used in this video. You're probably thinking, how do I know there's not a piece of wood in the way? And the honest truth is I don't. So as I'm cutting it out, I'm feeling for any type of resistance. If I do, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. It's always better to cut the opening out slightly smaller and then trim it so that whenever you put the box in, it's nice and snug. I would also like to mention I'm using an old work single gang box, and that's big enough for one receptacle, and it's designed to be put in after the fact, which means the house is existing and I'm trying to put this box in now. These old work boxes have built-in wings, and when you put the box in the hole, you tighten it up and it secures it on whatever material you just cut out. To get power from the receptacle, there's an existing GFCI that's located in the attic, so I need to run the wire from here into the attic to the receptacle that's inside. I also already confirmed that the receptacle in the attic is on a 15 amp breaker, so I'm going to be using number 14 gauge Romex. Another thing to make note of is the way I'm doing it right here, the receptacle is going to be on at all times. If you're trying to put a receptacle for holiday lighting like traditional ones, you're going to want to run a switch and have the switch controlling the receptacle. But since it's permanent outdoor lighting, this requires 120 volts at all times, and you can turn them on and off with the app. Once I got the pulling tool all the way through the attic, I decided to tie the Romex already. That way I can go in the attic, find that wire, and just start pulling on it all the way till I get it to where the receptacle is. Alright, so next I went up to the attic on the second floor to find the wire in the attic so I can get that pulled to the existing receptacle. Once I found my pulling tool, I pushed it all the way through the exact route that I wanted the Romex to go. Make sure you look up your local code or the current NEC to figure out how often you need to strap the Romex. Keep in mind, if you're fishing Romex through an area where you can't physically be at, you're not required to strap it. But if you can squeeze there, I would suggest doing so. Once I had the Romex in the route that I wanted, I went back with my Milwaukee Romex stapler. Honestly, this is the first time I ever used a stapler, and I was blown away by how easy it is to strap it. It's also better for the customer experience. Instead of you being up there with the hammer trying to hammer all the staples in, you get a quick noise from the stapler and then you're on to the next one. Alright, so now we're at the area where we have an existing receptacle. It's a GFCI receptacle, so we want to tap off the load side of it. That way that if the receptacle outside ever needs to trip, it's going to trip the GFCI in the attic, and it's a readily accessible location to go and reset it. This receptacle still has power. I'm just kind of pulling it out before I go find the breaker. And I like using this Fluke beeper when I'm by myself, so I can just plug it in, listen for the noise, and when I find the breaker, I don't hear noise anymore. Now that the circuit is off, it's time to show you how to wire this up. Alright guys, sorry for the pause, but I'm going to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Jobber. So I've been using Jobber to send invoices recently, and it's been a game changer. I love how I can send my invoices to customers through a text or email. It's been way simpler to collect payment as well. Whenever I send an invoice, the customer gets a link, and that link is to their portal. That's where they can view the current invoice. They can look at past invoices and receipts, and they can see any scheduled visits in their portal. It's also been a lot easier to collect payment because after I'm done with the job, I just send them a link through text or email, and they can just pay me as I'm like picking up all my stuff from the job. It's been super convenient, and you can actually try it out for free with the link in my description. If you click on that link, you'll get a free trial plus discounts if you continue to use the software. All right guys, enough talking. Let's get back to the video. All right, so now that I have the Romex here, I just got to get it in the box before I start wiring it. Alright, so let's talk about GFCI receptacles. When a GFCI trips, the line side of the GFCI will remain hot, but it will trip the load side of the GFCI and the receptacle itself. So if I'm using this GFCI to feed another one, the new one doesn't necessarily have to be a GFCI, but it needs to be fed from the load side of the existing GFCI receptacle. I'll put a wiring diagram on the screen and you can pause and take a look at what I'm talking about. So I have 2 whites and 2 blacks. They're both going to be installed on the receptacle, but then I have 2 grounds, but then only 1 screw for a ground. So I decided to make a pigtail for the ground, which means I bundled all the grounds together just to have 1 single ground that I can land on the GFCI receptacle. The existing Romex that was feeding this receptacle is going to be the line side, and the new Romex that I just added is going to be the load side of the GFCI. If you look at the back of any GFCI receptacle, it's going to specify which 2 screws are your line and which 2 screws are your load. And then out of the 2 screws on each side, your silver screw is going to be your neutral and your gold screw is going to be your hot. And the bare copper wire is always ground. Some people would suggest to leave this receptacle open before you put it all up, but I'm pretty confident in my work, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in the box. And then we can go outside to install the box and the receptacle in the soffit. This receptacle only has 1 Romex coming to it, so it's gonna be really easy. It's just your ground, neutral, and a hot. Since this receptacle is located outside, it needs to be weather resistant. You'll know it because on the receptacle it'll have a WR. I'm also gonna make it tamper resistant since it's residential. Even though I guarantee no baby will ever be up here, let's just keep it up to code. My GoPro is mounted on my neck, so it's hard to see what I'm doing, but I put a wiring diagram on the screen and you can pause it to take a look. To best hide this receptacle, I chose a color that matched the house. And I'm using a cover with flaps instead of a bubble cover. That's because underneath this soffit is considered a damp location because it's not getting direct rain. If it was getting direct rain, it would have to be a bubble cover, which is wet rated. Alright, so before I came up here in the attic, I turned on the breaker at the panel. And I used this Fluke tester to see the correct wiring. I know on the camera it looks like there's only 1 green light, but there was 2 green lights on that said correct wiring. Back outside, I used the same tester to check the wiring. Once everything looked good, I plugged in the lights to see what happened. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. Sparky, Izzy, peace.